Hello, MikeRo here, and welcome to my Premier League predictions of 2018 to 2019. I think this year it's easy to predict kind of whereabouts teams are going to finish, but not in the order that they're going to. That counts for the top four and also for the bottom three. So here are my predictions for the 2018 to 2019 Premier League season. Let me know in the comments if you agree or if you disagree. Do it nicely though. So bottom of the table, I'm pretty sure it's most pundits' prediction and nearly everyone's kind of favourites to go straight back down, and I can't disagree. It is Cardiff City, who haven't really invested enough in the team. Neil Warnock isn't a Premier League manager. He's a very good Championship manager. He did a brilliant job to get Cardiff up last year. I'll give him that. For me, Cardiff City, they just haven't invested enough money like Fulham and Wolves have to kind of really have a go at staying in this league. I think they know that, and I think they're preparing for a short stay. And maybe it's about building the bank balance up from what they're going to get in the Premier League. And then kind of making sure that when they go back down, that they're going to come back up bigger and stronger. Because we've seen what it's like for some teams that go down, they don't get back into the Premier League for years, and that's not really conducive to running a good football club and helping build it. So in some ways, I think they got the right idea. Barely managed to do it with Sean Dyche, but he's a much better manager than Neil Warnock. So Cardiff to finish bottom. In 19th, I have, and I hate to say this because I'm actually a really big admirer of the way that they play, is Huddersfield. I think that they did really well last year, definitely overachieved with the squad that they have, or had rather. They really overachieved. David Wagner is a very good coach. He's trying to be a lot like Jurgen Klopp, and I appreciate what he's trying to do with the team. But I think eventually towards the end of last year, they got found out. At the start of last year, they had a really good unbeaten run at the start, got a few wins, and got some unpredictable wins that you don't expect to happen. The winning of Manchester United being the most notable one. And then obviously Chelsea away at Stamford Bridge. I think they drew that. I think so, because I was like they stayed up. Either way, I just can't see it happening this year. Again, it's another team that have really failed, I think, to bring in the sufficient quality that is going to be able to keep them up. And I can't see anything other than them going down from second season syndrome. So, sorry boys, Huddersfield down for me. Coming up with the third and final team to go down was actually really, really difficult, because there's a few that I could really think of off the top of my head. But in the end, I have plumped for Watford. I just feel this year that lots of teams around them have actually strengthened and kind of gone on and kicked on, and Watford have kind of been left behind a little bit. You look at the signs they made. Ben Foster, I think, is a very good signing. He was arguably one of the better goalkeepers last year for West Brom. He had plenty of work to do, but he actually performed quite well. So I think he's a good signing. I just think that they're lacking quite a lot up top. The start that Watford got off to, where they were almost chasing a top 6 spot, was that kind of got them through in the end. After Marco Silva left, they literally sort of just fell apart. They picked up not a lot of wins. I think they came on a little bit towards the end. They seemed to pick up a little bit, but I can't see that happening again. I don't think you can rely on Troy Deeney and Andre Gray to get you enough goals to survive in this league, and they're not good enough defensively to do that either. I don't think Watford have enough to stay up. It hurts, actually, because I've got a good mate that is a Watford fan, and I don't like talking about this with him, but I do think that they are my tip to go down as well, with Huddersfield and Cardiff. Just surviving for me are Brighton. Brighton, again, is second season syndrome. I think they did such a good job last year. I think Chris Hughton is a really underrated coach. I think that they will have just about enough to get up, and that's mainly down to the defensive solidarity. I think they've made quite a few good signings. I like Johan Bask, who I think was the running forward, who was out in the World Cup, and he played quite well. Cardio, I think, will get better after he's had a full season in the Premier League. Andone's come in, but I think he's injured at the moment. But he'll be in, which I think is a good sign. But I think defensively is where they are strongest, and I think that's where the difference is between them and Watford, is that I can see Brighton being able to keep clean sheets at tough times and knowing when to shut up shop and just grind out 0-0s and 1-0 wins and win from a set piece. I can just see that happening. If Duncan Duffy played like they did last year, they should be fine. So Brighton will finish in 17th for me. Just above Brighton, I've got Southampton. Southampton have been surviving for a little while now on not a lot. Mark Hughes did a good job to come in last year and kind of keep them up. I don't think that they're going to be really... I think it's going to be really close this year in terms of who's down. I think it could literally come down to maybe 3 points on the last day. I honestly think it's that close. I think Danny Ings is a big signing for them. If they can keep him fit, he will get you goals. He is a really good goal scorer. Same with Charlie Austin. You get Ings and Austin playing together, you're going to do well. Gabbiadini chips him off. I think that's the thing, is that Southampton really struggled for goals last year. I think with Hughesy, they will actually kind of get more, and that will be enough to keep them up. They've got more about them, I think, than the other teams that I predicted to come below them. But they cannot keep going on selling their best players. They've done it again this year. Dusan Tadic has left, which is a massive blow for them because he's one of their most creative players. So James Ward-Prowse really needs to step up this season. along with some of the rest of the Southampton squad, and get a bit more creative and feed the chances to Austin and Ings, because if they create enough chances, Southampton could finish higher than 16th. But I'm just going by the last few years. You can't keep selling your best players and expect to stay in arguably the toughest league in world football. It just can't happen. This is one that actually I was desperately unsure about, but I think Bournemouth might struggle this year. I've got them to finish 15th in the table. I think teams have found them out a little bit. They're still very good attacking. I read a stat that said they had the most shots on target outside of the top 6 last year, so their attacking prowess is not in doubt. Apart from the fact they can't really finish. I think Callum Wilson could be very good, but he's so streaky. He can go 6 games and get you 8 goals and be absolutely brilliant, and then he can also go another 8 games without getting you 1. And it's quite the same with Josh King. He had the season 2 halves last year. The first half of the season was absolutely useless. I think he got 2 goals and 1 assist. Second half of the season, I think he got like 9 goals and 7 assists. So they're a bit too streaky for my liking up front. I think they need a bit more. And defensively, they're not brilliant. We all know that Bournemouth aren't particularly good. I think Lerma is a good signing. He'll bring a bit more defensive solidarity in the midfield, especially with Harry Arter going away on loan. But I think that Bournemouth will have just enough because they attack enough and they win enough games down at the fitness or at the vitality, whatever you want to call it. I still call it Dean Court. They'll still win it down at Dean Court. So I think they'll be safe, but they need to start really investing in the squad, otherwise Bournemouth are going to kind of get left behind a little bit. In 14th place, I have Newcastle. This is all based on the fact that Rafa Benitez is going to stay. I think he really, really loves the club, and I think he really loves the fans, and he loves Newcastle. And he's got a real affiliation, but he's adored there, and why wouldn't you want to stay there if you're a manager and you're absolutely adored by your public? I would be the same. He's a brilliant manager. Newcastle did so well to get him in the first place. I actually think Newcastle are a sleeping giant. The minute they get rid of that expletive Ashley, the sooner that they'll make the top 6 or top 7. As far as I'm concerned, there is no reason on earth why Newcastle cannot be as big as Liverpool, as Spurs, as Arsenal, as the rest of them. I really don't. The fan base is huge. The stadium is brilliant. The infrastructure is great. Everything about Newcastle screams that they should be a massive club, and they are a massive club, but they should be a successful massive club. And the only reason that they haven't in recent seasons is Mike Ashley. I think John Shelby have another good year, and hopefully he'll kick on. I think they've bought quite well for the fact that they haven't actually spent any real money. I think Muto's a good signing. Keeson Young is a very good signing in the midfield to help partner John Joe. He's very industrious, very good. He chips in with important goals as well. And I think defensively as well, they've bought well. I like Shah quite a lot. And I think Fernandez from Swansea, even though he's a bit erratic, I think that is also a good signing. So I think Rafa's done well with what he's been given, but you have to do more. Like, Ashley needs to give him more, or he needs to get out, because he's wrecking the club. He doesn't care about the club. He doesn't care about the fans. And frankly, it just pisses me off that people like that are still allowed to be in charge of them. Obviously, today he's just bought the House of Fraser at the time of recording. So obviously, he's got plenty of money in the bank. He just doesn't want to invest it in the club. And it just makes me feel a bit sick, to be honest. Rant over. The 13th is a bit of an odd one. I've actually gone for last season's 7th place finish as Burnley. And the only reason for that is that Burnley have the Europa League. You want to stay in the league, but at the same time, if you've been waiting that long to get into Europe and you haven't had that much of it, especially if you're not a big kind of fringe, a top 6 club where you can play your fringe players because you've got a ridiculously wealthy squad, Burnley should go for it. Do you know what I mean? Make the most of the European adventure. It'll be brilliant for the players. It'll bring them on. It'll kick them on to another level. They'll learn. They'll develop a bit more. I think they've got a lot about them. I think Sean Dyche is such a good manager. What he did last season cannot be underestimated. It was just up with Roy Hodgson and Pep. Just brilliant. Just a brilliant season. And I hope that they stay up because I really, really like Burnley. I like what they're about. I know they're not the most attractive on the eye, but they can play some good football. Goodmanson, for me, is one of the most underrated players in the league. I love Goodmanson. I think he's brilliant. Chris Wood hopefully will get in amongst the goals for them this season. They've brought Joe Hart in, which is more, I think, to cover Nick Pope. It will be interesting to see what happens between him and Tom Heaton and who actually gets the number 1 jersey. I personally give it to Heaton because I've not really rated Hart since he won the league the first time with City, and that was only because he had flipping Company and Julian Lescott ahead of him. I think it will also be interesting to see how Ben Gibson gets on, obviously a very, very highly rated player, and Matthias Vidra as well, both obviously coming up from the Championship from Middlesbrough and Derby respectively. Vidra had a very good season last year. He's had a bit of Premier League football before. I'm not too sure he's of the required quality to actually succeed in the league, but part of me has some wrong because I love an underdog story, and I think it'd be really good for Burnley if they could get a bit more firepower. They're building something good quite gradually, Burnley. It's all about staying up, getting the money in, investing wisely, and leaving it in the hands of Sean because he knows what he's doing. In 12th, I have Leicester. I like Claude Puel as manager. I think he's very pragmatic. He's very decent. It will make them defensively a lot better. I think they're going to struggle because they don't have Mahrez, but the way that they've reinvested and the fact they've held on to Vardy and Maguire, I don't think Vardy will ever leave, but Maguire will eventually move on to bigger and better things. I think Pereira's a really good signing at right back. I like what they're doing with James Maddison. He's a very highly rated young player. Maybe they're shaping him up to be the kind of next Mahrez, the guy that can just unlock a defence. I know they bought a comment about Soyanku from what's the name? Freiburg? I think it's Freiburg, out in Germany. And he looks very good as well. I like what they're doing. I think Puel is a very smart bloke. I think he knows that they need to tighten up a little bit at the back and get that under wraps. Once they've got that going and they can start keeping clean sheets, I think they'll build, and they are maybe a sleeping one for later coming seasons. In 11th, I have Fulham. I think Fulham have done so well in the market. If you were to give me ratings at the moment about who did the best in the transfer market over the summer, I think you'd have Everton, Liverpool, and Fulham as my top 3 clubs who've spent the best. And maybe Arsenal, I think, have done really well, but we'll come to them later. But to get Jean-Michel Seri, he was touted with Chelsea, Barcelona, is brilliant. Lamar Chand, who joins him from Nice, is not just a good signing, it's very clever because those two will have a bond, which makes it easier for them to settle into the club, and they'll have an understanding, which will help Fulham, because it's all about how quickly they gel. The players are definitely there. They've got more than enough talent, Fulham, now to stay up and stay up well, which is why I've left them in 11th. Well, I watched quite a bit of Fulham last year in the Championship, and the way that they played football was absolutely brilliant. And they kind of came out of nowhere. They just suddenly hit this run of form and really went into it. We're obviously all interested to see in Ryan Sessegnon and how he gets in from an English point of view. I like the fact that they've signed Andre Schürrle. I think he's a smart bit of business because he knows the league. He did very well for Chelsea. Granted, he's probably playing with slightly better players back in that period, but he'll still get you goals. The fact that they've signed Luciano Vieto is frankly brilliant. Mitrovic obviously did so well for them last year, so it's going to be good. They've got depth. That's the weird thing. You usually find that when the clubs come up, they have a kind of first 11 or first 14, and then that's sort of it. And then you know that the rest are sort of Championship quality. Fulham have invested in some really, really talented players, and if they stay up this season and they carry on at the rate they're going, it won't be long before they are just a staple back in the Premier League. I am 100% sure that they're going to stay up. And 10th is going to be Wolves, the other team that came up from the Championship with Fulham and Cardiff. They kind of walked away with the league in the Championship last year because obviously the players that they've got are better than Championship standard. Jota and Neves and etc. etc. All of them were way too good for the Championship. They kind of cakewalked it. One thing I'm excited about Wolves though is that they play really good football, and I think that they will continue to do that. I'm actually thinking now, in hindsight, that I shouldn't put Fulham above them because I think Fulham have bought better in the market. Rui Patricio for Wolves is a massive steal. There's no getting around that. He's obviously I think he is a world-class keeper. He's kept shitloads of clean sheets for Portugal. He knows what he's doing. I think Wolves will be very good at shutting teams out. I'm not too sure how they're going to be going forward. The strikers they got is in Bonatini, etc. Not sure if they're Premier League quality, but Jota is. So is Neves. And they've signed some good players. I think they'll be fine. I think they will get top 10. And they're like Fulham. I think they're here to stay. They know what they're doing. There's a plan. There's an image of the club. There's a culture behind it. They know what they're doing, and that's quite refreshing actually in hindsight. So I hope Wolves and Fulham both stay up, and I hope they do as well as I think that they're going to do. And now we're really going to get into the top 10, and this is where things get a little bit more interesting. So in 9th, it's going to be quite the turnaround for Crystal Palace. As far as I'm concerned, I think that they, again, have a team that have had a really good window. How the hell they've got Maximilian Meyer for free is beyond me. The guy has got so much potential. The ceiling is so high. And keeping Wilfred Zaha is as good as making a £70 million signing, in my opinion, for Palace anyway. I just think with the players that they've got, as in Zaha and Townsend and Meyer, and they've got a better defence now. I think Roy came in and sorted them out, and I think they'll still be riding the high from last year from Roy Hodgson. If you think about how far behind they were and in what a bad place they were when Roy took over after only about 5 games into the season, after what happened with De Boer, you kind of just got to admire it. It'd be interesting to see how Zaha actually copes with it all now, because he obviously had a brilliant season last year. I think if he carries on at the rate he was going last year, this season, then it won't be long before he has gone from Palace, which would be a shame for them, and then I might have to rethink this. 8th and 7th were difficult because I think these are two very similar match teams, and probably another two teams that I think have had a very good transfer window. I've gone with Everton. Originally they were going to be 7th, but I think there's that element of I don't know how long it's going to take for them to gel, and also I don't think that they have enough up front. I still don't think that that's been rectified. I look at Everton's midfield and I think, cool, do you know what I mean? Now that they've got Andre Gomez, they've got Sigurdsson, they've got Balassi, they've got Theo Walcott, they've got Schneiderlin, they've got so much quality and depth in there. Idrissa Gueye as well, very good player. At the back, the fact that they got Mina, I think, is an absolute steal. How the hell they managed to get in and get Mina is beyond me. He was so good at the World Cup. I think he will change that back four for Everton and he will help things. Pickford's going to be riding on an absolute high after the World Cup. But at the same time, I just think they've got so much in there. But it's just up front. They're still relying on Tosin and Sandro and Niasse, to get them the goals. And I'm not sure that's going to be enough. I think that they're just missing out on a really clinical striker that's going to push them up to that next level. And that's why my 7th place team, West Ham, are above them. West Ham also had a very good window. Obviously signing Jack Wilshere is the big signing. I don't think he's the most important signing that they're going to make. I think Pellegrini as a manager was probably the biggest signing that they were going to make because he is undoubtedly quality. He did so well for City. He's a manager of real pedigree. West Ham have got a real steal there. And the fact that they kept Arnautovic, who I think has been very, very good for them. They've started buying players that they should have been buying 2 years ago. You can tell that these are Pellegrini signings. This isn't Gold and Sullivan. This is Pellegrini, and that can only be a good thing. The Joe Hart signing was a shambles. Zabaleta, good player as he was a shambles. They were just buying players that had been there and done stuff before and hoping that that would pay off. It's kind of like, it's almost big name, but not quite. And it just wrecked it. It was just 2 years wasted. And they were in such a bad position last year. I feel for Moyes not being able to stay around. I think he did a really underrated job at West Ham last year. No one, I don't think, could have handled what was going on at the club there better than he did. Players to watch by far, I think, for me, is Arnautovic, to see if he can carry on going as he was last year. It'd be interesting to see if he and Chicharito make a partnership up front. I've heard that Hernandez will probably get a bit of game time with Pellegrini. He used to favour the 4-4-2 at City, so maybe he'll do the same at West Ham. So now it's on to the top 6. And this was actually probably the hardest thing to decide, is what order that they're going to come in. Even now that I'm about to talk about it, I'm still not sure if this is how I feel, but I've gone with Arsenal in 6th because I don't think it's going to take one transfer window and a change of manager to sort out the fundamental issues that they have at the club. I think there's still quite a bit of deadwood there, but I think they've had a really good window. I think Bernd Leno coming in for Czech is very good because Czech is on the decline. There's no getting around it. He had a really poor season last season compared to what he's normally like. Socrates is a really good signing. Having Lacazette and Aubameyang paired up together, and Aubameyang's not been there long, so that's almost like a new signing. I think Torreira is a brilliant signing. He is what they've been crying out for ages. He might be a little bit lightweight. I don't know. We'll have to find out how he gets on in the Premier League. But I think he's a brilliant, brilliant player. And if he adjusts to the league and the physicality and the tempo, he's going to be brilliant. Uruguayans tend to, actually, to be fair to them, because I think that we sort of suit their way of playing, their sort of street football way of playing. And I hope that he does really well, because I think he could arguably be signing of the season, a bit like Kante was for Leicester 3 years ago. I think Torreira is probably going to be just as good for Arsenal if he gets himself on a roll and he starts well. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this because I'm a Liverpool fan, but I think even the most objective pundits and everyone would say that Man United are not in a good way at the moment, and that is why I've gone for them to finish outside of the top 4. This is immensely close, though. I think, again, like the 4th, 5th, maybe 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, maybe even 2nd, they could all be separated by maybe about 3 or 6 points by the end of the season. You just have that feeling it's going to be like Mourinho at Chelsea 2 years ago before he took over United. It's got the same feel to it. It's got that resigned feeling to it. I actually had a chat with my mate the other day. We were talking about Mourinho. He's a big United fan, and this is probably why I don't despise them as much as many Liverpool fans do. And when I was talking to him, I was saying to him about, I think Mourinho is a brilliant manager, but I don't think he's a very good coach. And I think that sort of sums up the way that football has changed in recent years. Well, not even in recent years, over the last 7 years. And Mourinho has been left behind. He still plays the same mind games that he tried 10 years ago, but it's not quirky or cheeky or mischievous anymore. You can tell it's just him irritating. And sometimes it reeks of a bit of desperation of it. He doesn't know what else to do other than, I'm going to say something that's going to provoke that manager. That will rile them up. They'll lose their cool during the game, and then we'll win, and I'll look like a genius. It hasn't worked. It didn't work with Conte over the last 2 seasons. Yeah, they lost an FA Cup final to him. Conte won a title with the same Chelsea team that Mourinho lost. And even in the games, I think United beat them once, but Chelsea tended to beat them more often than not. So I don't think the mind games really worked. The mind games don't particularly work on Klopp. I don't think they particularly work on Guardiola, because I think Pep knows he's got the beating of him. It'd be interesting what happens with Sarri if he gets involved in that, and Emery. It's hard to say what's going to happen with United. It could be one or two things. It could all go wrong, and Mourinho could be gone by Christmas. As far as I'm concerned, United won't tolerate that. I think the redeeming feature that they had last year was that they finished second. They didn't play very good football. They didn't play the best football in the top 4 last year at all. Spurs, Liverpool, City, all of them played better football than United. More entertaining football. United fans deserve more, and United deserve more. It's not Man United if it's grinding out 1-0 wins against West Brom away, and or at home. Where's the wing play? Where's the attacking fullbacks? Where's the Scholes passing over the top? It's just not enough. It's not good enough, and they've had a shocking window. I think Fred's a very good player, don't get me wrong. I think Dalot as well could be dynamite in the future. But I just think that they've had a really poor window. They haven't addressed the real issues that they have, which I think they need a real good backup to Romelu Lukaku. I think Rashford's very good, but he needs more game time, and he needs maybe to get a loan out. I would have loaned him out to a team that maybe not in the Premier League, maybe out in the Liga or the Bundesliga, which is usually the best place for young English players to go and ply their trade, because it's a very similar sort of style of football. Martial's not happy because Mourinho's pushed him out of the club, and he could be brilliant. I would have given anything for Liverpool to have signed Anthony Martial. That would have been flipping brilliant. Sanchez is hit and miss. He's not one of those players that if Mourinho pisses him off, Sanchez will be the first one to turn his back on him, and he'll probably go and join the Pogba crew. And I think that's going to be the real underlying feature of this season. It's going to be Pogba v Mourinho, and I think in the end there's only going to be one winner. I think that's probably going to be Pogba, because now he's World Cup winner, and he went to everyone, well, look what I can do in the World Cup. Look at what I can do there if I'm not restricted to playing a role that I'm obviously not suited for. But Mourinho likes to suck the expressiveness out of players, and it's all about being pragmatic first. Don't lose first, enjoy your football later, and that's just not good enough for United. That is not a Liverpool, but that's just my objective opinion on what I think. It's not a league without United challenging and playing good football. It's not the Premier League, and I hope that eventually this was his dream job, and honestly I think he's just wrecking it, because I think the Chelsea second time around I think has actually destroyed Mourinho. I really think he hasn't recovered from it, and that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. You're all free to disagree with me, but I think even United fans would say that they can't be happy finishing second, but not being that far behind City, not playing very well, and then the next season all they've signed is a defensive midfielder and a fullback. Do you know what I mean? It's beyond me. In fourth, I've gone with Chelsea. I think keeping Eden Hazard was a massive thing, and I really, really, really rate Sarri as a coach. I watched a lot of Napoli because they're great fun to watch. He is the closest thing to Guardiola that you're going to find. He kind of moulds himself on trying to play like Guardiola, and that can be no bad thing. He has a good squad at Chelsea, and I think he's a very good manager, but I don't think they're going to have enough to win the league. But you never know with Chelsea. They have done it before, but I can't see it this season, especially when you saw them in the Community Shield against City. They got the run around in that game. But I think Kovacic coming in is a good signing. I do think the keeper is going to be very good going forward. It's a loss to lose Courtois. He's obviously a world-class goalkeeper. He wasn't brilliant for them last year, though. I think it's fair to say he wasn't great. But I do think that when the Chelsea camp is a happy camp, then they are always dangerous. And it'll be interesting to see how Morata gets on this year. They've still got plenty of firepower. I just think they are lacking a real clinical striker up front. I think Morata is good to get you maybe 10 goals in 25 games. But that's not going to win you anything, and that's not really going to help you get top 4. So I think they needed a bit more. But if Hazard plays to his ability and William plays to their ability, they've got more than enough firepower to to make sure they secure a top 4 finish. So I think they are actually not in as bad a way as I think everyone thinks that they are. In third, I've gone with Spurs, and this one was actually the hard one because I think Spurs could either finish third or second, or they could finish sixth. A lot of it depends on Harry Kane. Harry Kane stays fit, Spurs do really well. Harry Kane goes injured for a long period, Spurs don't do so well. I love Heung-min Son. He's one of the most underrated players I think in the league. I think people are finally beginning to appreciate just how good he is. But him and Fernando Llorente are not going to replace the goals and the play that Harry Kane gives you. I think they've got some good players in terms of Lucas Moura will get more game time. Hopefully Harry Winks will get a bit more action. But I just don't know. I don't know about Spurs. It all depends on Kane. It really does. And Eriksen. If those two stay fit, Spurs will finish top 4. They might win a trophy. Part of me even wants them to win one because I feel like they've got such a good team together that they should do. Obviously, they're the first team in God knows how long in the top 5 to never actually make a signing and not buy anybody. It's not, I think, for the want of trying. I think they wanted to, but I think tying down Kane and co to long-term contracts was just as good as actually making in a new transfer because they've secured them on long-term deals. They've now got a World Cup winner in Hugo Lloris in there as well. I think they'll be fine. I really do think they'll be fine, and I'm looking forward to seeing Kieran Trippier absolutely rip up the season this year. Come on, big boy. And so now we're down to the top 2. And as much as I'd love to put them first, I think Liverpool will finish second. We are everyone's favourites to finish second, and it's been a brilliant window. It has. There's no getting around it. We've addressed problems that were there for all the world to see. Loris Karius isn't gone. He's still there. He's not happy about being replaced, but I'm sorry, mate. You can't do what you did in the Champions League final and then expect to be kind of forgiven. I think Jurgen was going to give him the chance to come back, but when he saw him in pre-season, he made that gaff against Tranmere. He just doesn't look any better than he did. He looks like a broken man. So Alisson coming in, he's probably one of the top 5 goalkeepers in the world. Proven now as well. He's Brazilian's number 1. He's even keeping Ederson out of the Brazilian squad. So, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money, but obviously that got blown out the water by Chelsea signing keeper. But at the end of the day, it maybe takes the pressure off Alisson now because he's not the world's most expensive keeper. So, cheers. I'm thinking getting Keita and Fabinho in as well is really good. And Xherdan Shaqiri for £30 million is just, yeah, it's a bargain. It's an absolute bargain. Getting Sturridge back fit and firing would be like having a new signing again. Hopefully he learns to get more into the team and the way that we play. Him and Shaqiri, I've watched a lot of pre-season obviously. Him and Shaqiri seem to have a nice little understanding. So maybe when we're rotating a bit more, there's going to be a bit more cohesion up front. I always felt that when we took Bobby Salah, where we either took Firmino, Salah or Mane off, that our attacking play sort of then stifled a little bit and it became a bit stagnated and it wasn't quick and the movement wasn't there. So if we can get some more combinations going on that can come in and replace that, then brilliant. I think we'll run City close, but I can't see anyone other than Man City winning the title. I think that they haven't had to invest that much, and I think the brilliant thing about this is that indicates that even though they bought in Mahrez, obviously, I think more of it indicates that Guardiola is looking to actually utilise the really great youth academy that they've got going on underneath. Phil Foden's got a lot of minutes in pre-season. It's hard to tell pre-season if youngsters are actually going to get a go, but I think Diaz will get more of a go. I think Foden's going to get a lot more game time. Bernardo Silva will get a lot more game time. The most impressive thing about what Guardiola's done is that, yes, he's got more money than, pretty much the rest of the league put together. But at the same time, it's that element of like he's doing it and he's turning it into something that's beautiful to watch. You've got the older heads now like Aguero and company that have been there, have done it. Aguero for me is still pound for pound the best striker in the league. I love Harry Kane. I think he's a very, very good player. And obviously for England, he's been dynamite. But I think Aguero is just different mustard. Do you know what I mean? He's so good. It'll be interesting to see how Sterling does after his rather poor World Cup. But I think he'll be fine. It'll be even more interesting to see how Sane sticks it up to to Germany after they kind of omitted him from the squad. I'm glad that he didn't go for his sake because I think there's going to be a few German players out of that. They're going to be scarred by what happened in the World Cup. So if anything, it's probably just as well he didn't go. It'll be interesting. It may well come down to the Liverpool City games. I hope that it does, because if it does, then I'd actually back us to win the title because we tend to beat City. But I just think that they were the best team I've ever seen last year, apart from the ex-Barcelona Guardiola team. But it's difficult to retain the Premier League, and I think that might be a slight stumbling block. But I think Guardiola's too good and City are too good to not retain it, and it's going to say that because I think they're the only thing now that stands between Liverpool and winning a Premier League. But either way, it's going to be a great season. Of that, I'm 100% sure. There's so much to play for this year. I think it's quite condensed. I think you're going to see it split off into a kind of top 8 and then a rest of 12. Thanks so much for watching the episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I want to do more of these kind of videos, like review videos, reaction videos, general discussion videos. I actually had a really good idea coming. I just need to get a team together to actually do it. So hopefully that'll be quite exciting. Because I love football. I love talking about it. I like to think sometimes I know who I'm talking about. You'll probably be happy to tell me that I'm wrong. If you are, then please do leave a comment in the section below. If you agree with me, or if you want to let me know what your predictions are, go for it. You know, we're here to discuss it. It's a community. I want everyone to get involved. Thank you so much for watching the episode. Maybe you've enjoyed it. Until I see you again, stay cool. Enjoy the season.